Okay, so welcome back to part 2 of our intro series walkthrough on Silver Efex Pro. We're currently in the global adjustments section of this walkthrough. We had finished up with our brightness adjustments and we're getting ready to begin discussion of the contrast adjustments. So, just for interest's sake, we can see that even with these adjustments here, we've had a pretty minimal impact on the image as a whole. We have some brightness here, a little more detail, a little more contrast, but it's subtle, and I like subtle. Subtle's good. So let's turn to our sliders to start. Contrast itself is honestly self-explanatory. It increases or decreases the contrast in the image overall. I don't like playing with that as much to start because there are other interesting aspects to work with. Amplify Whites and Amplify Blacks are similar to dynamic brightness, which we discussed in the last video, in the sense that it's protecting the detail in either the highlights or in the blacks. So you can push this really hard, and while yes, this is brighter, it makes the darker areas brighter proportionally than the bright areas. And we can see a pretty good example of that in the chest feathers here. So here we have bright feathers essentially going into darker. We amplify the whites up all the way, so just going completely ham with it. And these are about the same luminosity level, but what has changed are all these darker areas around. So it's raised it up while maintaining the detail in the brighter areas. It's nice if you want to pump the white or the bright in a photo. Similarly, we can amplify the blacks. So again, we're looking at this darker area and into here. We can go all the way up. You still have the detail in here, and we haven't darkened this down, and we still maintain our detail along these darker sections. So essentially, it's really just exactly what it says, which is an amplification of the black and an amplification of the white. And you can do both, and it looks completely ludicrous because it's conflicting with each other to a certain degree. And finally, we have soft contrast. What this does is it's pretty similar to the contrast, just with a buffered zone. So it kind of floats in and out of each other. So there's 100%, there's 100%, or negative 100%. So in comparison, that's 100% of regular contrast and 100% of soft contrast. So it has a similar result, but with a much more feathered feel to the edge. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't particularly use that all that much. I might bump it up 3% and then amplify my whites a little bit, my blacks, just because I'd like a little more micro contrast there, and take this up 15%, something like that, which will now compare. Now this isn't going to show us between the contrast and the brightness, but it's showing us the raw file and then all of our adjustments thus far. So not a huge difference in the burr. There's more micro contrast, more detail, but we haven't gotten into things like our selective adjustments, which again will be the video after next, and that's where we can start to really amp up and do the subject separation. But what has changed is the background. This very flat, just kind of background is now developing much more interest, at least to me. We have these branches, and this is taken in March, early March, so winter in the northeast of the United States, and it feels more like that. So in any case, that's it for today. Tomorrow's video will be about structure adjustments, and that's part 3 of this series. So we're just going to leave those errors in there. and we'll also discuss briefly tonality protection. Then we get into selective adjustments and control points, which I don't know how many videos that's going to take because it's pretty important and intense. So in any case, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.